All right. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining DocumentDB Insider Hour for October. Joining me today, I've got a special guest, Karthik Thota. I'll bring him in here now. Good morning, Karthik, or good afternoon for you. You're in the UK. So welcome to the show here today. And what Karthik's here to talk to us about is just the different capabilities of DocumentDB and how customers are using them and how they can be used in financial services industry use cases specifically. So welcome, Karthik. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for having me here today. I'm really happy to be part of this show. Yeah, today we'll be talking about how Amazon Document DB can be the right choice for or the right document database for financial services industry. Yeah,
All right. Yeah. Looking
yeah,
forward to this.
yeah. Thank you. So we all know AWS work backwards from the customer needs. So let's understand some of the requirements from our financial services industry customers to run their database workloads or the mission critical workloads on document DB. So one thing, the first thing any enterprise or the financial services industry or a regulated industry would be looking at is security. Security is non-negotiable for them, right? They
Right.
need encryption in transit, encryption at rest as a standard for when they want to think of running their workloads or mission critical applications on the databases, right? And we also heard about the security teams who are responsible for managing that kind of workload have very stringent requirements before they let anyone to deploy the applications uh, which are going to serve end users and going to store the data that is having a PII or any regulated data, right? That is major thing. So they do lot of internal evaluations. They want encryption at rest, encryption at transit, and apart from that, they also want it to be very simplified. They don't want to manage a lot of keys, generate the key infrastructure, and all the stuff. They want the service to take care of all these nitty gritty and undifferentiated heavy lifting. So
Right.
that's one of the requirement when they expect from a database service or a managed database like document. The other thing they also wanted to they also manage a lot of databases, and some of them could be multi-tenant deployments where they have multiple applications using the same cluster or same infrastructure, right? So they want
Hmm.
uh, to provide them the ability to define granular roles, limiting the set of users to a set of database or set of namespaces or a collection. That's the other requirement that we heard from financial services and other regulated industry. And the other thing is there are a lot of tools in the enterprise. They want to, and over the time, it becomes a lot of complex for the teams managing the data or interacting with the data to work with multiple tools. They want to simplify their day-to-day operations or day-to-day work. So they want to limit us number of tools they interact with all the time. So these are
Right.
few of the requirements we get from majority of the customers, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think these are kind of like you say, table stakes, right? I mean, these are just the sort of the basics
Yep.
that are needed. All right. But the point is, like you said, it's built into the service. You don't have to worry about it. It removes that
Yeah.
undifferentiated heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Now, so these are some requirements. Let me talk about a few other requirements before I talk about how Document DB achieve these requirements from the financial services or any regulated industry in short. Right. The other thing, apart from security and fine granular access, the other major requirement for the financial services is meeting the compliance. They want to, when they have very specific data or regulated data, they need to achieve compliance uh, to to get more clients or more workloads. And that internal teams also wants to enhance the security posture beyond achieving compliance. So they want the facility or the functionality to maintain a record of all the data changes, like audit trials of all the data changes that are happening to the data. Like one of this, let me take an example of SOX requirement. One of the SOX
Okay.
requirement is to maintain the audit trail of the data changes and access privileges for a specific amount of time, so that if there is an incident involved uh, for the data, they will be able to identify who, what, and when, or how the data was changed or manipulated or removed or accessed. So this information should be a part of audit trail, which cannot be tampered with. So that is something compliance required. The SOX, one of the SOX requirement is to maintain all the change audit trail of all the changes and data access patterns, so that when they require, they will be able to generate a report of the specific data changes. So in short, they wanted to have a DML auditing, or an audit trail for all inserts, update, deletes, authentication, authorizations. This is very complex requirement from the financial services, right?
Right. Right. And so the thing there, it's sometimes we talk about security and the aspect of security of the cloud, security in the cloud, and the
Right.
separation of duties, what AWS provides, what customer is responsible to do. And the way I understand this here is like we're saying, right, DocumentDB as a managed service provides these
Yep.
capabilities, right?
Yeah.
And I think we may go into it, but different um, like SOC and HIPAA,
Yep.
different compliance. A lot of it is based on the capabilities we provide, and users have to take advantage of those to be able
Right.
to meet those
And
requirements. Okay.
r- right. And the audit trial should will also serve the other purpose, right? For example, someone by mistake or with a bad intent deleted some data before it
Hmm.
was identified, or accessed some data, bulk reads, before it was made as a big event or identified by the external customers. If the internal teams know it, they will be able to do some kind of repair work, or they would be able to undo the sum of the work by restoring the data from a backup or anything. They will be able to do the steps to reduce the damage. So the teams, security teams, or the DBAs or the DBREs wants to be notified. Wants to notify when a event like a delete or a drop of a table happens. So DML
Hmm.
auditing is also required to help them get notified. And these are about notifications and involving about data. The other requirement we got and we heard from financial services, and which is natural, is financial services or the financial data is huge, and they deal with large numbers, and the large numbers and decimal places, they need precision
Hmm.
to the one that is not available with the common data types. For example, they want a precision up to store quadrillion numbers or to store up to 27 zeros. So the specific data, double or integer, is not the right choice. They need the data types that fulfill this requirement. So we have DocumentDB built-in support for such kind of data types for financial services industry. Let's see how we have. These are few of the major requirements we captured from the financial services industry and other regulated industries. Now
Okay.
let me talk about how we are achieving the security requirements and the compliance requirements through the features we have available. So we DocumentDB is a VPC only service. It means the resources of DocumentDB or the DocumentDB cluster is only accessible by the resources within the VPC, right? So outside VPC, it is not available. So we have a physical isolation of cluster, and if someone wants to connect between the two VPCs, they have to do either VPC peering or need to do SSH tunneling for ad hoc requests or operational thing. But the built-in VPC isolation is one of the important security thing that isolates the multiple environments.
Right. And that's a big deal. I mean, I know in a previous life before working at AWS, working at other places, so that's concern you hear a lot. It's by default, some databases are just open, and
Yep.
if you know the default login, it's not isolated. You know, we've all seen stories of these unsecured databases, folks accessing them. Yeah, so this is key, if you will, no pun
Yep.
intended, with the key management service we see on the slide there. All right, but
Yep.
really key to securing that data and ensuring that, by default, uh,
Mhm.
you can't just access it from anywhere.
Right. So the default encryption is enabled by default. Customers have an
Mhm.
ability to disable it, but when you think of creating a cluster by default, those check marks like AWS key management, which is for uh, data in transit and data at rest, are enabled. So customers can either use their own key or they can use use the AWS default key to encrypt the data. So TLS and uh, encryption at rest is enabled by default. And as we are talking about the compliance, as a service, Amazon DocumentDB is compliant with SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, HIPAA, PCI DSS, and other services. But coming to the data or the application, the customer has to get their compliance requirements or meet the compliance
Mhm.
requirements involving their data. As a service, we are
Right.
compliant. So again, tying back to your shared security model you are talking about, yes, as a service, we are compliant.
Right. Yep. You still gotta use it in the right way.
Yeah,
We provide
exactly.
you the capabilities to ensure that you're compliant. Yep.
Yeah, and backups are enabled by default, and one cannot turn off the backups with DocumentDB. So, the management can have peace of mind, even though they don't configure backups as specific thing. At least you get a 1 day backup available with DocumentDB. I mean, in case something goes wrong, they still have the ability to at least restore 1 day backup if they haven't configured anything, change the default settings. So, like you can have the retention period up to 35 days, but if you don't configure anything, you can have the retention up to uh, 1 day, at least 1 day retention. So it
Yeah.
provides peace of mind for the management and the DBAs who are managing the data.
Right. And if customers need to go past 35 days, right, they can always do manual
Yeah,
snapshots of
that's a
of the
great
data
point.
as well. Yeah. So yeah, the 35-day limit is on the automated incremental backups for point in time recovery. But yeah, if you have more stringent, or I shouldn't say stringent, basically, if you just have requirements that you've got to have data past 35 days, you can still take snapshots and keep them for as long
Yep.
as you like.
Yeah. For archival purpose or for any use, you need to the customers have to manage the life cycle of that manual backups or manual
Right.
snapshots.
Yep.
And tying back to the requirement of reducing the number of tools they interact with, we built integration with AWS CloudWatch, AWS Backups, and multiple secrets manager, which we see in a demo and detail as we move forward. But this native integration helps the customers to reduce the number of tools they interact with. And the native integrations help them to have a single pane of glass.
All right. Eliminating technical debt in a lot of
Yep.
cases, right, for
Yeah.
folks migrating workloads to DocumentDB.
Right. So now, we spoke about the requirement. The customers were asking that they want to let them create custom roles or define the roles that are specific to a specific namespace. With DocumentDB role-based access control, users can define custom roles. For example, the users can define a role that limits the actions to a specific collection, like a read access to a specific collection. I'll take an example of a reporting user. Generally, in my
Mhm.
previous organization, we get read-only access to most of the databases. But as the things are evolving and things are not, everyone should not access to every data, like compliance and everything. We need to granularly control the access to that specific collection. I mean, you need to define the purpose of why you require the access to the data and provide the admins or the administrators or reliability engineers need to limit the access to that namespace. Providing this ability of role-based access control, uh, they are now able to limit the access to very specific collection, whether it was a read or a write. They can just limit the actions specific to a namespace. So this is really helpful for the users who are operating in multi-tenant database environment.
Yeah, and this is perfect example of that. You know, the service provides the capability, and you need to take advantage of it. So
Yep,
yes, you need to put some thought into the roles and things like that. And that, another thing that I think of here talking about this is I may not get it correct, but I think it's called the least privilege, right? This concept of least
exactly.
privilege and security, right?
Yeah,
Don't just create users that have access to all the collections and can do all the operations and all the collections, right? You really need to think about, okay, for this user, they really only need read access, and it's maybe only on one specific collection in the database. So yeah, again, you can get very fine grained and very specific with this, which is needed in this case.
yeah. That's AWS best practice, access of least privilege. So that's with this role-based access control, customers can achieve that.
Nice.
And right. And the next thing I will be talking about is the secrets manager. So we all know that we hard code application database secrets or the database credentials in the application for the application to interact with the database. And rotating these passwords is requires a deployment of entire application. So it's again a little bit of operational overhead. Now with this, when they will have to rotate the secret, the development team or the engineers who are responsible for that service are focusing on deployment rather than developing the features that
Hmm.
differentiate their application with the customer. But now with AWS Secrets Manager, you no need to hard code the credentials in your application. You just provide a secrets path which will be used in your application, and not forget about rotating the secrets and anything, because it can also be taken care by the AWS Secrets Manager you configure. It's again a AWS Secrets Manager is a managed service from AWS, which has enterprise integration with AWS Amazon Document DB, sorry, Amazon Document DB. So with this, the customers can move away from long-standing hard-coding credentials or a permanent credentials to a temporary credentials. They just
Hmm.
mention the path of AWS Secrets Manager in the application code base and can have a separate lifecycle of rotation and audit control of who access those secrets all the time without worrying about managing the secrets infrastructure. Right.
Right. And got a got a question here real quick from
Sure.
uh, sorry if I get the name wrong, Mayan Kahuja.
Mhm.
Sorry if I mispronounced that. That they're comparing it to Key Vault and Azure, right? And I think that's a very fair comparison.
Yeah.
Conceptually, right? It's you put information in there, and it's secured, stored securely. Mayank, okay, Mayank, thank you. Um, so yes, you can put information in there, store it securely, and not only that, right? Even at another level, if you will, as an AWS service, you can with IAM, control who has
Who
access
access
to
to the
that
secret?
service to create the secrets and modify the secrets. So
Yep.
you've got, in a way, two levels right now. You've extracted the endpoint information, the credentials from the client code or a client config file, put it in a secret, and then you can also restrict who can create and modify those secrets.
Yeah, we'll see the secrets manager in action, but I mean, without this, one has to create two users all the time. So rotate one password, and this
Mhm.
in my previous life we used to do that. We create two deployments when for the compliance you need to rotate passwords frequently, every 3 months or every 6 months. So there is a deployment all the time. We have to work around. We create A and B users, and when application is using A. We change the B password, and then application changes to do a deployment to use B, and after 3 months we again switch A. This is a good amount of work back and forth between engineering teams
Right.
and reliability engineering teams in some of the organizations I worked with. Slowing down the pace of development, slowing down pace of releasing the features. So with the secrets manager, you can rotate secrets safely without worrying about redeploying their application, and you can audit and monitor as we see, and you can also limit as with IAM who can access the secrets, and everything is audited who whenever you open the secret uh, to access to see what is the value, that is audited who accessed
Hmm.
that secret. So that audit trial is again it helps in compliance and being secure, both the things.
Right.
Right. And the next one is we spoke about compliance requirement. They want to track FSI industry or financial services industry want to have an audit trail of all the data changes and access privileges uh, recorded. So there comes the we built there comes the auditing. So DocumentDB has auditing, and recently we added the DML auditing support. Earlier, before the DML auditing support, DocumentDB has the capability to audit authentication and DDL events. Now with the DML auditing, you can audit reads, writes, deletes, updates, all the DML events except TTL
Mhm.
deletes, and authorization, success and failure events, and DDL events. And with DDL auditing, with this additional capability, you can fine-grainedly select what are the events to be audited. Like if your business or compliance require only to audit rights, you can enable auditing only for rights. If you want to audit for DDL events as well as rights, you can do both. Or if you want to audit read, which could be some of the requirements for only read-only databases, they can also do that only for read. So DML auditing provides fine-grained control of what event to be audited. And,
Got it. Okay.
and
Yeah. And
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, yeah. So that, I mean, that's really nice, right? You can choose what you want, the reads, or the updates, or DDL, or all of them,
Yep.
right? And then, going back to the discussion about user-defined roles, right? So, certainly, um, you need to take advantage of all of these capabilities. I mean, ideally, take advantage of all these, right? Create the user-defined roles and really narrow down, well, who can create collections, and yeah, you can also audit that as well.
and and one of the other major important thing about auditing is it is integrated natively with CloudWatch, so you don't need to worry about extracting the logs from the service and put it in a log aggregator to do that analysis. So once you enable with a click of a button, we'll see it in a demo how easily it integrates with CloudWatch and how it makes the life easier for analysis of the audit trials. But the integration with CloudWatch eliminates the need of any third-party tools. In my previous
Mhm.
organization, what we used to do is we are having the database logs in the instance, and there is a log aggregator that would be putting the log extracting the logs at every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes and send it to a centralized location. And we have another tool where we run the queries to analyze the logs. This is a very huge infrastructure, the log aggregator putting taking up the log from the instance and putting in a central place. If you have an agent that needs to be updated or operating system has to be updated, the compatibility problems, all the challenges, there is a lot of heavy lifting in that situation. But coming
Mhm.
to DML auditing, it's a click of a button, 2 clicks, you are done, and you have the logs in your CloudWatch. You can analyze, and you can do the alerting also. Like if there is a delete happening and you expect that data should never be deleted, you can set up an alarm. When a delete happens, the related stakeholders can be alerted as soon as it happens, so that they can they can do a remediation, or they can remediate that problem. So we'll see that in action, how
Nice.
one can get the alert when unto event happen. This is DML auditing is one of the powerful feature, and few customers was waiting for that to be enabled. And the other thing we were talking about, the requirement of precision or support for large numbers. Decimal 128 is going to help you to store the data which is of very large in numbers. So this is a 128 bits of decimal representation supporting up to 34 decimal digit of precision. Like if generally what we do with double is when we give a number with very large decimal value, it rounds off. And
Hmm.
if that is not good for financial services data or any scientific data or any large numbers where you require precision or accuracy, with decimal 128 there is no rounding off. In case if you are submitting or if you are storing value that is beyond decimal 128 range, then you get an error instead of getting it rounded off. So it's like atomic. You either you have the value or you don't have the value. You store it in some other. You have to work around that. So this helps in getting accurate, complex scientific and financial calculation, and it is must for the applications that require precisions.
Nice. Yeah, that's nice getting a notification, right? Because I was a developer in the past, and you know, running into these issues where the results aren't what you expect, and you didn't choose the right data type, for example, and it doesn't have enough precision, and
Mhm.
there's no warning or indication. So yeah, this the decimal 128, yes, we have the support now for, like you said, 34 decimal digits of precision, but also on top of that, you'll know, all right, if you try to store a number that can't be supported by decimal 128, we're not just going to store it and round it off. We're not going to store it and let you know that
Yeah.
it's not going to work with decimal 128. So very nice.
Yeah. This is all about I want to talk. Let's quickly see these thing in action. I'll start
Okay,
with a demo of secrets manager that eliminates the need of hard coding the credentials in your application, and then we'll see a DML auditing demo as well as decimal 128 demo.
cool.
Yeah,
Let's go.
sure. So for decimal, so starting with secret server integration, I'll be using a small application code here, which is using a secret name. I'll create the secret with you on this show. So we'll be creating a secret. So we'll be using the secret name here, and nowhere in the code we mention the username password values. We get the username from the get secret, and we get the password from the get secret, and host and port from the AWS secrets manager, and we'll insert some data, and we'll retrieve some data, and we'll see we'll log into the database and see the values for that. So the first step is for me to create a secret. So I'll go to, this is my AWS console. I'll go to
Hmm.
secrets manager.
We got
Yeah.
the search fooled you there. We got systems manager instead of secrets
Also,
manager.
yeah. Yeah. So I'll create a, this is a, I don't have secrets. This is a demo account. So I chose to create a secret, and
Hmm.
because secret manager works with services that are integrated, I will choose credentials for Amazon document database. And in the username, I provide my username lab user.
Okay, so this
And
this is just the user that's already defined in
yep,
DocumentDB that's going to be connecting to read or update data.
yes, you for the first time you need to have the user, and
Hmm.
you need to provide the password here that is you created, and then you need to select the database. I have the database cluster, so Amazon DocumentDB cluster, which is getting started with DocumentDB. I have only one cluster, so I can
Hmm.
see the clusters that are with created in my region. Let me close this for a better value, better view. So I'll select this, and choose next. And I need to provide the path. So what I'm doing is I'm using the path here. What I have it in my application is this is the path. I use the same path, and I provide some description.
Hmm. And that path can be anything, right? Anything
Yes.
that the customer chooses. It's just the way I think of it. It's like it says, it's the secret name, so
Yeah.
it can be whatever you choose.
And yes, you can have automatic rotation of this secret. For now, I'll not select the automatic rotation, but let me walk through the options. So at what time you want to rotate, every 30 days or anything, you can enable the rotation automatically. So it creates a lambda in the backend, which rotates the password.
Hmm.
So it should be the rotation is also offloaded. The undifferentiated heavy lifting that you need to do the rotation of password is taken care by the secret server. And I'll select
Yeah,
next. And you have got the
nice.
secret name, automatic rotation. I'm not rotating at this moment, so I don't have a lambda function. And let's see in Python, that is my application. So the get secret function is using the secret name, what I'm using, what I have provided.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this makes it very easy,
Yep,
right? To use secrets. By default, rotation is enabled. If you want to turn that off, you can, but we even provide the sample code that you can go ahead and use in your application.
yeah, it's almost instantaneous. You have got it here. And now
Mhm.
I'm using a Cloud9 browser. This is a browser-based terminal that is connecting to my DocumentDB. This program is there. And let me execute that Python application. Yeah, see, we have so this
Okay.
application inserted the data and retrieved the data and updated the data. So this is the program. We inserted ID 4 and we got the ID 4 named Jesse. Anyway, we haven't hard coded any credentials because it's like a soft link to your code or the path for your secret. You can, with the secret server, you can eliminate the need of hard coding credentials. So let me log into database and show you the remaining uh, data.
Yeah, like you showed there, it's important to point out in that code. I mean, the code itself doesn't change. I mean, if you already are using hard-coded credentials, you
Yep.
just replace, add a couple lines of code to read the secret and pull the credentials out of that.
Yep. So here we have inserted 4 records and we have the 4 records here. So it's a
Cool.
sample application. We can provide the sample application URL here. After the Twitch. So this is the secret server integration. You can rotate the credentials. It's very simple, right? No
Hmm.
need to worry about rotating the credentials, and it helps in compliance. The compliance also states. I was working in my previous organization. It's like SOX or and the compliance where they want to they want a record of who accessed the secrets. So for that, we were managing a very huge secrets infrastructure code infrastructure. So with this, it is very simple. You get all the report and who accessed the secrets and everything. Very simple to use. And this is the demo for Secrets Manager. Now let me quickly jump on to the DML auditing
Hmm.
demo. So I will insert some more records here onto a different database. And these are around 5 records I inserted. And let me show you how I missed to enable the DML auditing. Let me enable the DML auditing first. So DML auditing can be enabled with 2 steps. One thing, the first thing is you need to have the parameter groups, a custom parameter group, because you need to edit a parameter that is audit log. So this is a simple parameter group I created and I disable my audit logs. Now I
Yeah,
enable it.
yeah, and they're disabled by default. Right?
Yep.
So, for folks that haven't seen this before, the audit logging and also profiler, which we're not going to go into here today, but they are disabled by default uh, because they do use CloudWatch logs, right? So they do consume CloudWatch log storage, which does incur cost, right? So that is something to be aware of, but that's mainly why we don't enable them by default for the
Yeah.
cost, and also the reality is there can be some not can be you know additional resources will be consumed, right, to be able to send all of these logs over to CloudWatch from the instances in the cluster. But yeah, you do have to enable these if you want to get these logs.
So we have to apply this modify cluster parameter, and I need to reboot the cluster because I have to change it to use a new parameter group if I'm not using the custom parameter group for my cluster. So
Mhm.
I'll change it to docdb DML and continue apply immediately. Okay, it's already applied.
Okay. And now that you have this custom parameter group, right, if
Yeah,
you can reuse this when, say, creating another cluster, a second or third cluster, you can just
right.
specify this custom parameter group at creation time, and then when it comes up, it's created, it's all ready to go.
Yeah. So the cluster parameter is docdb4ml DML, sorry. So
Mhm.
we have updated this, and the next thing is we want to modify to export CloudWatch logs. So here we select audit logs that should be enabled
Mhm.
and applied. And both these changes are dynamic. You no need to reboot your cluster to enable this. So as the audit logs are enabled, let me get into insert some more data.
Okay.
So this gets applied. Your cluster is always available, so it takes a couple of minutes to get applied. So, but where we will be seeing the data is in the CloudWatch logs. Whenever you
Okay.
enable CloudWatch audit logs, you will have the log group created with the name of your cluster and slash audit. So it is still getting applied.
Okay. Yeah, and this it does take a minute or two to apply these. And then once that's done, those logs start to be streamed over to CloudWatch. Um, so to just another thing to point out, when you're modifying the cluster there, Karthik, I noticed
Yeah.
the audit logs export checkbox was already checked.
Mm.
Again, that's unchecked by default.
By
Right?
default.
So for folks who new to DocumentDB or haven't enabled log exports before, it's a two-step process. The custom parameter group, where you enable it in the custom parameter group, and then also at the cluster, you need to check the box to go ahead and start exporting those logs. And then once that's done, they'll be sent over to CloudWatch.
Yeah. So
Oop, lost a screen there.
yeah. Uh, okay. I lost sharing. Okay.
All right, having some
Yeah.
technical difficulties
Little
here,
technical.
folks.
So while that gets applied, I'll talk about the DML auditing, and we'll get back to the DDL auditing. Sorry, decimal 128, and then we'll go back to the DML auditing.
Okay.
So back to my Cloud9. So I'll be using few large values to insert some data. Right. So when we are inserting the value with decimal 128 or in a decimal 128 data type,
Hmm.
the format is you need to use number decimal. So here what I'm
Okay.
trying to insert is I'm trying to insert one record into decimal 128 collection name, and the attribute I'm trying to go with is num value number decimal. So this is the way we have to insert the using number decimal function. You have to insert the records into the decimal 128 data type in a collection. Else, if you don't use quotes, then you will lose the precision, and but you will not get an error. So this is the
Ah.
this is a very important thing to note. Let me show you decimal 128. You have the exact number what you have inserted, the precision. Let me show you
Hmm.
how it happens if I want to insert in a collection which is decimal, not decimal 128. In this insert, what I'm doing is I'm inserting this number one record in a correct way, a large record in a correct way, and the other one, the same value I'm inserting in double, and the
Okay.
same value I'm inserting in decimal without quotes, without in the string format. So let's see how the value look like. So if you see the double has lost the precision, it has changed the total value,
Mm-hmm.
and even the number decimal is also storing in a different value. You lose the precision. But coming to the
Yeah.
decimal 128, you have the exact value the way you wanted to store.
Yeah. Yeah. So we lost the precision on the decimal part and on
Yeah.
the whole part there as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that is a good point. I ran to this myself when I started working
Yeah.
with number decimal. Didn't realize you had to put the quotes around it. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you put the quotes around it, and as long as it's not over the number of bits that we support, that the database supports, we're going to be able to insert that value.
Yeah. So the other thing is, if we want to insert, let me insert uh, a without decimal, how the value looks like. The previous uh, one was showing to show the precision. Now I'm trying to
Hmm.
insert a very large value in decimal without quotes and in double. I don't get any error.
Hmm.
So I get inserted. Now if I find this, I get the value with lost precision.
All right, and that's what we would expect because double doesn't have the precision, and number
Yeah.
decimal we didn't put the quotes around it.
Yeah, but if I put in a right way, I get an error. So I'm trying to insert decimal 120 into the same collection with in a proper format, or which is a correct format. Now I get an error because input is out of
Mm,
range.
okay,
So
so we got the right format, but
yeah,
like I said, it's beyond the range of what we can support.
right. So
Okay.
it's very important for you to put the value in the quotes when you are using number decimal. That's the right format. If you don't use the quotes, you'll lose it. The decimal 128 advantage, you'll lose the decimal 120 use of decimal 128 advantage.
Nice. That's good tips. Thanks, Karthik.
Thank you. So now the cluster parameter groups are in sync. Let me go with the CloudWatch Manager. See, I got the back to I'm switching back to the DML auditing demo. Now we have
Hmm.
completed decimal 128. So the decimal, coming to the DML auditing, as I mentioned, we'll have a CloudWatch log group created with the name of the cluster once we enable the DML auditing. So now we see the log streams created, and whatever we inserted, you can see the data here.
Yeah, and that what you clicked on there quick, that search all entries button
Yeah,
is a lifesaver. All right, because
yeah,
if
exactly.
you have this enabled for a long period of time, you're going to have potentially dozens of log streams. So if you're
Yes.
not familiar with CloudWatch, instead of looking at all of those trying to find it, just click search all log streams. It's going to take you to another stream, or sorry, to another screen, and CloudWatch will search
Yeah.
every single one of those for what you're looking for.
Yeah. For example, this is always use search all log streams. Here you can filter
Mm-hmm.
out the time, uh, or time of events, 30 minutes or last 1 minute, or you can use a custom but always go with search all log streams, because else you would be losing the events that you want. One
Mm-hmm.
important thing I want to mention here, two important things, is how do we identify the events. Like, if you have DML events, DDL events, and all the events will not be having the same data. Some might be having more data, some might not be having additional details. But each and every event will be having the enough necessary information to identify who is responsible for that event, when that event happened, from what location it has happened, and who is the user or that is getting impacted, or what is the object that is getting created. Now here I'm showing you an DML event for a create database. So based on the A type, you know it is a create database event, and TS is a Unix timestamp
Mm-hmm.
of to know when the event happened. And the remote IP is the IP from which this event got triggered or responsible. And the user, you got to know who is the user. Lab user is my username for the document database. And what is the in the param subdocument, you get the namespace. I created a demi lab instead of demo lab. I created it DEIM lab. It's a typo. So that's the namespace. That's the database I created. And you see that create collection, the similar information. So create the NS changed, decimal 128.
Okay. And now will I see, going back to the user-defined roles, right? Like, let's
Mhm.
say we, like me, all right, user
Mm.
deboncer. I don't have permissions to create a collection. Will you be able to see that um, in the
Uh,
DDL logs that I tried to create a collection?
you will not be able to log into the. Okay, so yes, it would be logged into the DML auditing that you try to
Hmm.
create, but it will not be created because the
Okay.
DML auditing is for compliance reasons. So whatever the execution that happens on your database, that's the right question, Douglas. Douglas, that really helps to understand how the DML auditing works under the covers. So every event that reach the database will be audited. That's for the compliance. And there could be situations where your transaction has rolled back, but you can still see that event in the CloudWatch log or the audit trail log. That will not be
Nice. Okay.
deleted. Yeah, that will not be
Okay.
deleted. So you try to create an event, or you create a collection which you don't have access to, that will be still logged, that you try to create that.
Got it. Okay. Makes
So it,
sense. Thanks.
yeah. And this is the event. And let me also look at authorization event if we have one after the enable. So let me show the create index event. The create index event has more information. This is what I'm trying to say. All the events might be having different information, but every event will be having A type, TS, remote IP, and the user, and on the namespace on which it is happening. So there is an extra information for index, what is whether it was created background, or it is a unique index, or the sparse index, or whatever the parameters that are applicable for that event, you'll also have that. But still, the
Got
minimum information of A type, who, why, when, what, and where is
it. Hmm.
is available in each and every event.
Got it. Yeah. And then, like you said, I mean, the point is you always have that basic information, but then based on the event type, right? Create user, create index, drop database, a query operation, that that param value is going to differ based
Yes.
on the type. In some cases, you just have the namespace of the collection that was created. Like here, you see the details of the index that was created.
Yeah, exactly. So let me do something like let me delete some data. Let me insert some more data and delete the data and create an filter to filter specific event to get us alerted.
Okay.
So back to my Cloud9. I clear this 2 because I have catalog. I inserted the data.
Okay.
I have 5 records here, and then let me just show you db dot. So we have this. Let me do a pretty. So we have 5 records that we have inserted. We have SKU 3450121290. We can see that in our logs even now. Let me refresh it. So here I created a catalog to database. I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
trying to show the audit trial for the
Mhm.
activity I did now. So I created a database. I created a collection of products, and when we create a collection, there is a default index that gets created that is now,
Right.
and I inserted 5 records. So this is very important to note. So DDL events have a type, whether it is a create collection, create index, drop collection, or authenticate. But coming to the DML events, it's always a type as auth check, and the details is present in the subdocument of param.
Mhm.
So here from param subdocument, we have attribute command which tells whether it is an insert or whether it is a delete or whether it is an update. So here I inserted the data, so we got the command insert and what is the namespace catalog 2.products and what is the data I inserted. So you get exact command you executed on your database. And see, there is no requirement of, I did not use any third-party tool uh, to merge the data or to get the data here.
Nice. Now,
So
does that read show up? You did a read on
yeah,
the. Does that show up in the audit log as well?
yes, but I'm use. Let me do another read. Yeah, I did a read, right?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So here we have find, command find.
Ah, okay, there's the find.
Yeah, I
Okay.
did the
Yeah, so
find of
this
products.
okay. Interesting. So this okay, so this yeah, this is important to note as well. All right, so we do log um, DML events for read operations, and find is a read operation. In
Yeah,
this case, there was no filter, right? You just did a find all basically. But it's important to note that we don't log the results of the find. We just
yeah.
log basically what
Exactly
the
the
request was for.
exactly the request is for. And note one thing to note: why we are getting everything is the reason why in the parameter group we mentioned audit logs as to audit everything here.
Mhm.
So if I mention DDL only, I'll only get DDL events. If I mention DML read, I'll only get find. And if I mention DML write, I'll only get the write, delete, and update. And if I want, so please, one thing to note and is enabled and disabled are still supported, but these are going to be deprecated. These were introduced with DDL events,
Mm.
but this will be deprecated. So let's not use enabled and disabled.
Got it.
This,
Okay. Yeah, makes
if you
sense. Yeah, because when
yeah
it was
if you
just
use
DDL, it's just on or
yeah
off.
yeah
Now
it's
that we have other
exactly if you
options. Yeah.
yeah if you use enabled and disabled, it means like whether you are enabling DDL auditing. Nothing, it won't impact anything on DML. But if you want to have a combination, you can it's a comma separated value. The value is comma separated, so you can mention DDL comma DML write, DML read comma DML write, no DDL event. So this can be changed as and when you require. It's a dynamic parameter, no need to restart your cluster. You you apply this change and modify the cluster parameter, it gets applied almost instantaneously.
Nice.
One thing, because one thing to note, please enable only the field values that are required for your organization and compliance. Just not use everything, because it is DDL. DML auditing is a resource. It will consume amount of resources based on your filters. So be a little bit careful when you are using what are the events to be audited.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Don't don't just turn it on all.
Yeah.
Start with start small and add more if you need it.
Exactly. That's dynamic, so you can choose whenever you require. And once you are done with the requirement, if it is a temporary requirement, you can turn it off. And now let me just delete some data. I deleted the data with an SKU of 8976045.
Hmm.
So now I'll be having only four records: db.products.count. Instead of five, I'll be having four. Now this is remote. Now what I'll be showing you is how we can create an alert if something delete like this happens next. So for that, we need to identify the exact filter. So what I would be doing is I'll be using JSON expression for filters. This is a very specific, this is a standard JSON. This is a standard filter to deal with JSON data in CloudWatch logs.
Yep.
So now, because it's a if we see the details for the DML event is in the auth check and param and command. So this is what I'm doing. Param.command equals to delete, and param.namespace is catalog2.products. And if I search, I should get delete. I have a space here. Sorry for that.
Ah, it's very particular.
Yeah, and it's case sensitive. So you should be it not case insensitive, because I deleted the data. I now have the exact delete command here.
Okay. And sorry, a quick time check, Karthik. We got about a little over a minute
Yeah, okay.
before the next
Okay.
show's coming on.
Thank you, Douglas. So it should be okay. I'll create a metric filter with delete and provide namespace, something on that, and metric name, delete metric value. I keep it minimum, and I create. And once you create the metric filter, you will see it in the metric filters. I choose this metric filter and create an alarm. And I can create the alarm because I want to be get notified whenever the delete happens, even one delete happens. So I would use greater than equals to one threshold, and the additional configuration, I have nothing. So I'll just use create a new SMS topic, and I'll use my email. And next, I'll put deletes on catalog. And I created the alert. That's all. Once create alarm. So once this alarm is created, and whenever you delete the data, the subscribers to that SNS topic gets notified.
Nice. And right now it's insufficient data because it
Yeah,
hasn't.
yeah. It takes a minute.
Nothing's happened. It didn't. It
Yeah,
didn't go back in the past to find that. It would, if something
yeah.
happens now, we would see
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. If I do this again, delete, it should change it in less than a minute from deletes on catalogs to insufficient data to alarm. Because if we can see that, we can see it in the log streams. Search for log streams. Now we see two events for delete events.
Got it. All right. And I apologize. We are at
Yeah,
the top of the hour, but
yeah,
yeah, go ahead and see if we should see two there. But thank you, Karthik. This has been a
yeah.
great conversation, great discussion. There we go. there's the other delete. So thanks for showing us how these different capabilities of DocumentDB can help, in this case specifically in financial services industries use cases. So again, a lot of great information. Appreciate the time. I appreciate everyone spending an hour with us here today. Please stay safe, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.